Hi everyone, it's James here from Pro Tools Expert. We are at Messe 2016 in Frankfurt, Germany. I have joined Tom from Audient on their booth here at Messe to talk about this baby. This is the new ASP8024 Heritage Edition.
Thanks, James. Yes, it is, indeed.
It looks beautiful. I'm loving the woodwork, but I'm sure beauty is only skin deep. Tell us more about some of the beauty that lies within.
It's beautiful within too. It's got a heart. It has a heart. Where shall I start? Well, let me start with the look and then we'll get inside. So the whole goal with Heritage Edition for us was to take David Dearden, as I should really say, Sir David Dearden, who's been really sort of one of mine and Steve's mentors for a long time, and he's really an industry legend, a great console designer. He's been doing this for a very long time, very humble design effort nearly 20 years ago to do the original 8024. And it's worth saying that, you know, it's the only desk I'm aware of that was designed that long ago, and is still in manufacture today.
Yeah.
And because it's coming up on its 20th anniversary next year, we thought now's a really good time to spruce it up and give it a new lease of life, bring on some of the features and mods that we've been incorporating as custom mods for the last like 15 years or so, and add some new stuff as well, just to sort of bring it to life. So the whole name Heritage Edition really implies to David's heritage, the fact that he came over to this country from South Africa when he was about 20 years old in 1970. Within 3 weeks, got a job as tape op in Advision Studios, which is one of the three big studios, I think. There's mostly advertising and jingle music, hence the name. But they still had huge clients, you know, Shirley Bassey and Fleetwood Mac and all those people.
Those little bands,
little groups. The little people from back in the big days. You know, but, you know, so he was very much running tape and building and wiring, maintaining the desks in-house. So when we started doing this project, we pretty much started with taking the 8024 design and revamping the look of it to give it kind of that heritage feel. So more muted colors, what we've called a midnight raven color blend, which is sort of like a classic British navy gray with a very sort of like purple midnighty colorway. So it sort of blends between two classics.
It does look classy, I will say that.
Yeah, and fortunately we've got a very good silk screener who does the artworks for us, and they use a silver, which is like a custom silver, and it's so shiny that the legending just pops off the desk. So there's sort of two rationales for that. One is make it look a bit more, you know, more exciting to the eye and a bit, you know, new and fresh again, but also to improve legibility when you're on session. So, you know, we still sell a lot of these to education and to, you know, a lot of the sort of training campuses, private and, you know, public, effectively, educational establishments. And the one thing that people love about it is its ease of use. And so we've kind of made small improvements where we've done things like the channel flips, so you can see whether you're flipping the inline architecture between tape for playback, which is green, and then the mic red for recording, which makes it more visual, so you can see that from across the room, which if you're an instructor, that's a lot easier to do. Yeah. It's also much more visual and sort of artistic when you're mixing or working on it as an engineer, so that's cool. Another thing that I've done is sort of increase the scaling around all of the knobs, so they've got loads more divisions. So, you know, we weren't going to do a fully recallable desk. It was going to take this thing into the stratosphere price-wise, as people know, I think. Yeah. So photo recall, you know, iPhone pictures, do what you need to do. We've given you more points on each control so that you can easily see where to recall each setting. New knob colors, same great mic amps, and line inputs. Yeah, we like those. And the thing with the desk, which is what I was trying to say to you when you came down last time, is if you're mixing on the board, a lot of people would mix into the tape input, which is quite clean. It doesn't have a lot of distortion. Especially if you have an onboard patch bay like one of ours, and you repatch, say, in our case, the radar outputs to the mic ins or the line input, that runs through the pre-circuitry. Yeah. So it's a bit like having a drive knob. There's second and third harmonic distortion. It changes the low-end delivery of the desk. So that's still there, but we really want to push that as a way to use it, because a lot of people think the Audient's quite clean. But I think it has a sound. It tightens and sort of gives you a little bit of a mid-range push when you drive the preamp side, which is very much like that sort of 70s British sound. Yeah. Not 70s Transformer Class A British, but more of the sort of solid state IC based desks.
Bit of grit.
A little bit grittier. Yeah. Exactly. So then moving across the sort of channel buckets, obviously you've noticed the beautiful walnut, which used to be a premium option. We've now made that standard on the Heritage Edition because, you know, David's a classy guy and needs some classy timber.
It's stunning, I will say that.
Thank you.
And it does draw the eye, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've had to sort of spend a bit of time. We were looking for alternatives. None of them match up, but you have to have good wood. And it is hand-built around the corner from our very leafy sort of rural office.
Rural is an understatement. Out in the middle of nowhere, I think is a...
You didn't get lost though, did you?
Thanks to SatNav.
Well, yeah, exactly. So next to the pub and just down the road, there is a small, almost like a hobbit's hut. No joke. You have to go through a door that's like 5 foot tall. And there's a guy in there called Colin, and he's a master craftsman, and he makes all of our woodwork. So you've got the walnut as standard. We offer this in the straight armrest, but also in a keyboard extended one. Nice. So you have a bit more workspace if you don't have a DLC or a PD section installed. We've extended the top trim to 180 millimeters, which is deep enough to take Auratones or mixed QB type speakers, NS10s. Even we've managed to fit the 218s on, which is a bit of a feat. But you can also order this in a extended 300 millimeter with brackets, so you can get more sort of selection of near fields and stuff up there if you so wish. So that's pretty much a lot of the cosmetics. So moving into the middle of the desk, we have the DLC module installed in this frame, which is an option you can add. So this is our dual layer control module, which offers 8 VCAs, which you can have patched into the subgroups with their onboard routing. So that means you could potentially have automation over your drum parallel, ride it higher in the choruses, or BVs and stuff like that, depending on the style of music that you're working on. Also, you can patch the DLC to its own in and out ports. So effectively, that's now patchable VCA automation, which we already had, but we've now integrated this so it's easier to find on the patch bay. You can daisy chain that to the bay, which means you can pretty much patch a VCA into like channel 1 insert or short fader channel 14 insert.
Cool.
So you can ride anything you wish, but 8 channels worth.
So you can ride to tape in inverted commas.
You could ride in the tracking process. Yeah, you could ride. One cool thing is you could put a VCA on the insert send, then a piece of outboard gear, and then another VCA. So you could do a crossfade, almost like a cross drive, where you would, like have a cooler setting in the verse, and then you'd like go fully distorted in the chorus.
Yeah, I like that.
So because it's patchable, you can do what you want with it. So with the DLC module, again, we've updated the colorway. We've gone with solid aluminium knobs, which we sort of are based on my design for the ID range of interfaces, so they all tie in with the branding. It's just this like a more expensive feeling frame. The new thing for DLC is that we were about to drop the Fader Link plugin, which just gives you the plug-in control over your VCA automation.
Right.
And I believe we were the first company to do that.
I believe you were.
I think. Well, yeah, potentially. Obviously, others have followed suit with it and done a very good job of it. But we've sort of updated this now, so we've got 64-bit AAX audio unit and VST, which will be coming shortly. Cool. Mac first and then PC. There's a few issues with PC implementation on various doors. Not our doing, but just the nature of the beast. Yeah. So that's great, because that gives you a nicely sort of integrated package for automation. In the door layer, you can then have 8 faders of control over Pro Tools, so you can sit in the sweet spot. You have track record arms, solos, mutes, transport, plug-in editing if you wish.
It's not a console with automation, but it is a console with automation.
Yeah, effectively. As long as you're efficient about where you put the automation, you can do a lot of damage with that. Cool. And it means the cost is only in the DLC option, which gives you the dual layer sweet spot control, and you don't have to have a fully automated board to get the most out of that.
And of course, that saves on good old hard-earned readies.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you get a lot of console for your money. And it's worth mentioning, actually, that because it's a 24-bus console, which, again, without spending 5-6 times this, you're not going to find many 24-bus frames out there. And we do offer and have offered a 48-bus upgrade. So if you order the console as 48 channels, we can fit a 25 to 48 bus card. So you can effectively have like 48 direct outputs. Wow. So, the first bank of 24 go 1 to 24, and then the next bank of 24 would go to 25 to 48. Now, there's 2 things that's cool for. The reason we did it first was for an orchestral client, so they could have loads of mics live on the orchestra and get loads of outputs to Pro Tools. But if you're mixing these days, I don't know about you, but when I've mixed in rooms where you don't want to turn on the automation or it's not working, you just...
Surely that would never happen.
Surely not, yeah. Looking in the fault log books in the on the side, and your heart sinks a little bit and you decide to work a different way. I mean, effectively, because there's so many buses, if you want to do the heavy lifting part of the production mix and actually, EQ, bring your outboard into play, set balances, commit to BV subgroup balances and stuff.
Yep.
You can just stem the whole lot back to the computer, which in the case of the radar we've got today, you could just run 24 stems straight back.
Yeah.
And then you've got a recall point that's halfway in.
Yeah.
So there's loads of ways of using the frame, which makes it still relevant today, which is really, I think, a testimony to David's design. And it's fully in line, so in this case 24 faders, but you've got short faders. One thing that some people might not be aware of is the EQ is actually splittable between the fader paths. So if you were stemming or summing on the console, you effectively have a 2-band EQ on the long fader and a 2-band EQ on the short fader.
No,
So if you look at it,
that's nice.
if you look at it like a track, like this frame configuration now, if you look at it like tracking and then stem mix prep, in the box mixing with your control surface, if you use it as a summing box, you've got rudimentary, EQ, 2-band EQ, which is quite powerful really on all 24 or 48 inputs effectively.
Nice.
So if you want to work that way, where it's like in the box hybrid, you can. So if we move over to the master module, this is where I suppose all of the big upgrades, the heritage part of the desk have come in, which is what I was trying to say to you before, like, you just come and check this out, it'll be exciting. So the master module has a number of enhancements. We'll start with this section down here by the master fader. So we have integrated a change to the mix bus, where it uses John Hardy 990C discrete op amps for the main mix. So you've got a muscular high headroom mix bus. If you turn on retro iron, this engages an output card that's sort of inspired by David's AdVision Studio days. So I've pretty much tweaked this all by ear. So when you turn it on, you get a very fat second and third harmonic discrete amplifier driving some big chunky Carn Hill transformers. So you get like a glue and a kind of like push in the low end.
Some cohesiveness. Yeah.
It does that. And on electric guitars, drums, kick drums, it changes the way the console delivers low end. But because it's sort of got a more wide open mix bus, we've put in like a very fast switched EQ on there as well. So the idea with this being that if you mix into it, sort of about halfway through the mix, you can put in a little bump down at 60 or a little lift in 20K. And depending on the combinations you choose, you can have thick transformers, weighty 60 Hertz transformers, smiley faced transformers, or airy transformers. So you can kind of mix into it. Now this makes the rationale of using it as a hybrid, tracking on one side, in the box mixing with some summing. The DLC can be used as an 8-channel automated summing box with its own inputs. So you don't have to use the whole desk fully fledged.
Right.
You could just bring, drums, stereo guitar, stereo vocals, stereo effects out, and you've got a reason to sum on it because you've got all of that tone shaping and that fat out. It's a piece of outboard. It's a piece of boutique outboard on your mix bus.
It just happens to be 3 buttons that are on the.
Yeah, I like simple choices. If you don't want to fiddle with it for hours, just make it happen.
It ain't broke.
Pretty much. Yeah, and then sort of in terms of the compressor, we've made a few changes there because it's the classic VCA bus compressor. Most people know and love in that sense, with a few tweaks. We've optimized the makeup gain so it's a bit smoother. It's got less gain available, so you've got sort of more tweakable range. We've moved to a new meter, which is that nice illuminated.
That does look nice.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of sexy sort of metering, but actually I've got a bit of a thing which is like the visual bias of it. If you use the LEDs, they only used to come on at about 2 dB, which arguably is almost on the edge of too much sometimes.
Yeah.
With this thing, you can just see the needle bounce.
And I love the phrase that's been coined by many engineers: "Kiss the meter."
Totally. That's why we put it there. It's not about looking good in a way. It's about being able to judge how much you don't want to go full on. You just want to give it a peck on the cheek sometimes. Yeah. And to make that more useful, we've kind of got the genteel button, we can call it if you want, the gentle approach, the bass expand, which is it's a very, very shallow, almost like a tilted high pass filter in the sidechain, but it's set very, very high. So instead of it being like kicks not being compressed, snares getting hammered, everything just relaxes down in the lower mid-range. So you can have a much wider sweet spot to dial into the compressor. And with those sort of things combined, it makes sense to come back out from the computer onto the frame and mix.
Stunning.
Thank you.
So the plan is, because there's always a plan, is to go down and see these guys at their HQ, have a play with this, take a session with us, and quite frankly, do a mix on this thing, because that's the best way to learn a console, is to use it. Tom's going to take us through it in the nth degree, probably, when I actually come down and see you guys. But I look forward to that very much. Sir, as always,
thanks very much. Nice to see you.
Cracking job. It looks beautiful. I'm sure.
you.
I'm looking forward to getting my grubby mitts on it.
So buying one.
I knew he'd say that. For now, I've been James. This is MusikMesse 2016. We'll see you again soon for some more Gear Talk.